My parents called me a mistake my whole life, while I paid their $1,000 monthly mortgage after they blew their retirement on my brother. When he demanded to propose at my wedding, they took his side, launching a full sabotage campaign to ruin my wedding. My brother has always been the favorite because he was planned. My parents only wanted one kid, but had an accidental pregnancy with me. They don't believe in abortions, so my mom carried me full term, but resented me for being born. My brother called me mistake growing up, and my parents never stopped him. When I went to them crying about it, they said he was right because they never wanted another kid. After high school, I moved out, went to college on scholarships, and built a good life. I'm engaged to my beautiful fiance, and we're getting married in April. She wanted a spring wedding, and what my bride-to-be wants, she gets. Last Saturday, my parents called me over, being cryptic about why. When I arrived, my brother was there too. They told me my brother wants to use my wedding to propose to his girlfriend. I laughed, thinking it was a joke, but they were dead serious. I said absolutely not, but they ganged up on me. I threw 18 years of abuse in their faces. I told them I was miserable living with them, and sometimes wished I hadn't been born. My brother laughed and said, "Yeah, who would?" That pushed me over the edge. I threatened to uninvite them all and cut off the $1,000 monthly support I've been giving since they took out a second mortgage for my brother's college. Even after the abuse, I was helping them while they gave my loser brother everything. Without me, they couldn't retire because he blew half their retirement on boats, a trashed apartment they paid damages for, and a failed business. I have a high-paying job and helped out of goodwill. The next day, my brother came yelling that I ruined his big chance. For once, my parents sided with me and said they'd evict him if he tries to propose at my wedding. He accused me of financial blackmail and said his girlfriend might leave him. I told him that's his problem. My wedding isn't about him. If he tries anything, I'll have him thrown out. He said this was why his parents never loved me and called me a mistake behind my back. He went crying to Grandma, who called trying to convince me. He'd changed the story to make me the villain. Even after I told the truth, she sided with him. I gave her such verbal backlash she cried. My parents were mad I went that far, but I said I had to when everyone was hijacking my wedding. My brother showed up again screaming, "I'm an a-hole. My fiancé knows everything and is ready to uninvite him." I threatened to tell his girlfriend if he still intended to propose without permission. He called me awful, so I pointed out my wedding isn't about him. Our parents were there and backed me up. Dad admitted he'd raised my brother wrong. From now on, he needs to pay rent or move out. My brother looked to Mom for help, but she agreed with Dad. He left in a fit and moved in with Grandma. Our parents told him to go ahead. He claimed we hate him for wanting to propose. They pointed out it's not that he wanted to propose, but where. Grandma called again, but I told her he wasn't proposing at my wedding. Accept it or don't come. I called out her favoritism since we were kids. She cried while I told her if she keeps insisting, she won't be coming. She begged not to be uninvited, but still doesn't understand why I can't let him have his way. Mom called later saying she spoke with Grandma and finally saw how much she'd favored my brother. She tore into him, but he tried to justify himself. That's when she cut all contact. My brother blamed me even though his girlfriend said she's been ready to leave and would have said no to any proposal. He's boycotting my wedding, honestly for the best. I said I wouldn't miss him. At 30, he needs to grow up. Our parents cut him off and are renting his room since they need money after the financial hole he left. They spent everything on him and he wasn't grateful. That made him shut down and leave. My wedding is next week and I've hired security specifically to keep him and Grandma out if they try to show up. My fiancé suggested we also have someone monitor social media during the event in case they try to cause drama online. It's sad that it's come to this, but I'm not letting them ruin our special day. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls from unknown numbers. My fiancé stirred beside me as I scrolled through the notifications. Each voicemail was from a different wedding vendor claiming there had been changes to our orders. The florist said we'd canceled the centerpieces. The caterer insisted we'd switched to a vegan menu. The photographer claimed we'd moved the ceremony time. I jumped out of bed and started making calls. The florist explained someone claiming to be me had called yesterday afternoon. The voice didn't quite match, but they'd assumed I had a cold. Same story from the caterer and the photographer and the DJ. Every single vendor had received cancellation or change requests. My hands shook as I confirmed our original orders with each vendor. They all required verbal passwords now. My fiancé sat up, watching my frantic calls with growing alarm. After the 8th vendor, she took the phone from my hand and pulled me into a hug. We spent the entire morning damage control calling. 14 vendors, 14 attempted sabotages. Some had almost processed the changes. The venue coordinator said someone had tried to cancel our entire booking, but their policy required written confirmation. The close calls made my stomach churn. My fiancé suggested we visit each vendor in person. We dressed quickly and started our rounds. At the bakery, the owner showed us the call log. The number was blocked, but the timing matched when my brother had stormed out of Grandma's house. The florist had security footage of their phone area, though it only showed their side of the conversation. By noon, we'd secured every vendor with passwords and written confirmation requirements. Several offered to call us directly for any future changes. The venue even assigned us a dedicated coordinator who would only accept changes in person. During lunch, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number, a screenshot of a social media post. My brother had created a fake wedding page announcing our cancellation due to family emergency. The post already had dozens of confused comments from our guests. My fiancé grabbed her phone and started reporting the page while I messaged our real guests. We'd kept our wedding details private, but somehow he'd found our guest list. The fake page used our engagement photos and looked convincing enough to fool anyone who didn't look closely. Within an hour, 3 more fake pages popped up, each one slightly different. One claimed we'd moved the venue. Another said we'd postponed indefinitely. The third announced a different date entirely. My fiancé and I took turns reporting them, but new ones kept appearing. My parents called during the social media chaos. Mom's voice was strained. Grandma had shown up at their house that morning, sobbing about the family being torn apart. She'd brought photo albums and spent 2 hours guilt-tripping them. Dad finally asked her to leave when she suggested they threatened to boycott the wedding unless I apologized. After she left, they found their mailbox stuffed with printed emails, dozens of them, all fake, supposedly from me saying horrible things about extended family members. The timestamps showed they'd been created that morning. Each one was crafted to cause maximum drama, claiming I thought certain aunts were gold diggers or that cousins were failures. Dad forwarded them to me. The email address was almost identical to mine, just one letter off. Easy to miss if you weren't looking carefully. Several relatives had already received them and called my parents, furious. Mom spent her morning doing damage control while Dad changed their locks. The security company called next. We'd hired them last week, but someone had tried to cancel the contract. Fortunately, they required written authorization. They suggested adding extra guards and offered to start surveillance on the venue early. We agreed immediately. My phone rang again. Our wedding planner, frantic. Someone had sent mass emails to our entire vendor list from another fake email address, claiming the wedding was off and threatening legal action if they didn't refund deposits immediately. She'd already fielded calls from confused vendors all morning. We drove to her office. She showed us printouts of the emails. They were sophisticated, using legal language and formatting, but they'd made mistakes. Wrong date formats, British spelling when I always used American, small details that proved they were fake. The wedding planner had already drafted a response to all vendors confirming the wedding was still on. She suggested we create a verification system. Any changes would require a video call with both of us present. Extreme, but necessary. On the drive home, my fiancé spotted something odd. A car had been following us since we left the wedding planner's office. Same blue sedan, staying 3 cars back. When we turned, it turned. When we stopped for gas, it parked across the street. I recognized the car, Grandma's neighbor's vehicle, the one she borrowed when her car was in the shop. We pretended not to notice and drove home via a circuitous route. The car followed the entire way, finally parking down the street from our apartment. Inside, we watched from the window. After 20 minutes, Grandma emerged from the car. She walked up and down our street, peering at buildings, taking photos with her phone. When a neighbor emerged, she quickly asked them questions while pointing at our building. My fiancé called building security. They intercepted Grandma in the lobby, where she was trying to convince the doorman she was my mother coming for a surprise visit. Security escorted her out and added her photo to the do not admit list. That evening, the real circus began. My phone exploded with texts from numbers I didn't recognize, all claiming to be wedding crashers my brother had invited to liven up the party. Some demanded the venue address. Others sent inappropriate messages about ruining our first dance. Each text was screenshot and saved. My fiancé started a spreadsheet tracking all the sabotage attempts. By bedtime, we'd documented 43 separate incidents in just one day. The pattern was clear. Morning attacks on vendors, afternoon social media blitz, evening harassment campaign. We barely slept. Every notification made us jump. By 3 a.m., we'd received over 100 texts from fake wedding crashers. Some included voice messages with slurred speech, pretending to be hammered friends excited to party. The voices were clearly different people reading scripts. Dawn brought new challenges. Our apartment building's management called. Someone had posted flyers in the lobby announcing a wedding planning garage sale at our unit, starting at 7 a.m. They'd already turned away several early birds who'd shown up with cash. My fiancé went down to help remove flyers while I dealt with fresh vendor calls. The rental company claimed we'd doubled our chair order. The transportation service said we'd canceled the shuttle buses. Each call meant verifying our identity and confirming original orders. By breakfast, exhaustion was setting in. We'd been playing defense for 24 hours straight. My fiancé made coffee while I updated our wedding party group chat. Our friends were horrified and offered to help however they could. My maid of honor immediately took over social media monitoring. My best man organized a phone tree to contact all guests personally. Within hours, our wedding party had mobilized into a protection squad. They took shifts monitoring for fake pages and responding to confused guests. Mom called with updates. The extended family email situation had exploded overnight. Oh boy. Grandma went full spy mode with the neighbor's blue sedan doing surveillance like she's in some action movie. I love how she tried the old "I'm his mother" trick at the apartment building. Nice try, Grandma, but security wasn't buying that one. Cousins were taking sides. Some believed the fake emails were real. Others defended me. 2 aunts were no longer speaking. An uncle threatened to skip the wedding entirely. She and Dad spent their morning calling relatives individually, explaining the situation. Most understood once they heard about the vendor sabotage, but damage was done. Family relationships that had taken decades to build were strained by a few fake emails. The security company sent their first report. They'd caught someone trying to access the venue overnight. Security footage showed a figure in dark clothing attempting to jimmy the service door. They'd fled when the motion lights activated. The build was wrong for my brother, but the gate looked familiar. My fiancée recognized it first. Her voice was grim as she pointed at the screen, the way the person favored their left leg, the slight hunch. It was Grandma's neighbor again, the one whose car she'd borrowed. We'd seen him walking that same way when he helped her with groceries. The security company increased patrols immediately. My fiancé and I spent the morning coordinating with them, establishing protocols for any suspicious activity. The venue manager personally assured us that no one could enter without proper identification matching our approved guest list. By midday, my phone vibrated with notifications from our bank. Multiple failed login attempts on our joint wedding account. The security questions had been answered incorrectly 5 times, triggering a temporary lock. We rushed to the bank branch where the manager helped us secure the account with additional verification steps. While waiting for new bank cards guards, my fiancée noticed missed calls from her dress boutique. The seamstress explained someone had called claiming to be me, insisting the dress needed major alterations. They'd grown suspicious when the caller couldn't describe the dress accurately and demanded immediate changes without an appointment. We drove straight to the boutique. The staff showed us their call logs from that morning. 3 separate attempts, each more aggressive than the last. The final caller had threatened to leave terrible reviews if they didn't comply. The boutique owner implemented a new policy requiring in-person verification for any changes. My best man texted urgently while we were driving back. Screenshots flooded my phone showing new social media accounts impersonating our wedding party. Each fake profile messaged guests with conflicting information about dress codes, gift registries, and ceremony times. Some even requested money for fabricated group gifts. The wedding party spent hours reporting fake profiles and contacting guests directly. My maid of honor created a master document with all legitimate wedding information, sharing it privately with verified guests. We discovered my brother had somehow obtained partial guest information from the engagement party sign-in sheet months ago. That afternoon brought a new crisis. The florist called, confused about a delivery address change. Someone had contacted their delivery service directly, bypassing the shop, claiming we'd moved the venue last minute. Only the driver's familiarity with our actual venue prevented hundreds of flowers from being delivered to an empty warehouse across town. My fiancé handled the florist while I dealt with the cake decorator. They'd received an email from an address 1 letter off from mine, requesting the cake be changed to chocolate with peanut butter filling. My fiancé was severely allergic to peanuts. The decorator had already started preparing the new batch when they decided to call and confirm. We spent 2 hours at the bakery, watching them dispose of the contaminated batch and start fresh. The decorator showed us the email. It was sent at 3 a.m., written to sound casual but urgent. The timing suggested someone had been planning this for hours, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. My parents arrived at our apartment as we returned home, looking exhausted. Mom explained that Grandma had recruited several distant relatives to her cause. They'd been fielding calls all day from family members who'd been told I was having a breakdown and destroying the family over petty grudges. Dad showed me his phone. Text after text from relatives I barely knew, all echoing similar talking points about family unity and forgiveness. The messages felt scripted, as if Grandma had provided templates. Some relatives I hadn't spoken to in years suddenly cared deeply about my brother's proposal plans. The harassment escalated through the evening. Food delivery drivers arrived at our apartment every 30 minutes, each with orders we hadn't placed. Pizza, Chinese food, Indian cuisine, even ice cream, all paid with cash on delivery. We turned them away apologetically, adding generous tips from our own pockets for their wasted time. Building security called around 9 p.m. Multiple people had tried to access our floor, claiming to be wedding vendors needing urgent signatures. Each person gave different stories but similar descriptions of emergencies that couldn't wait until morning. Security turned them all away and increased monitoring of our floor. My fiancée discovered the next attack while checking her email. Dozens of wedding vendor inquiries had been sent from addresses mimicking ours. Each email requested quotes for services we'd already booked, creating confusion among vendors who thought we were shopping around last minute. Some vendors had even called our existing providers to ask about issues. We spent the rest of the night sending apology emails and clarifying the situation. Several vendors mentioned they'd never seen such an organized campaign of interference. The DJ offered to bring extra security after hearing about our troubles. The photographer promised to verify any communication through multiple channels. Sleep came fitfully. Every notification felt like another attack. My fiancé and I took shifts monitoring our phones and emails. By 4 a.m., we'd intercepted attempts to change our hotel reservations, modify our honeymoon flights, and even cancel our marriage license appointment. The next morning arrived with my maid of honor at our door, laptop in hand. She'd spent the night tracking fake social media accounts and discovered a pattern. New profiles appeared every few hours, all using variations of our names and photos. Each wave targeted different guest groups with increasingly creative misinformation. My best man had organized a response team among the groomsmen. They took shifts monitoring and reporting fake accounts, documenting everything in a shared folder. One groomsman's girlfriend worked in IT and helped us understand how the fake email addresses were being created so quickly. Mom called while we were reviewing the documentation. Her voice sounded strained as she explained that Grandma had shown up at their house at 6 a.m. with my brother. They demanded to discuss the wedding situation over breakfast. When my parents refused to let them in, they'd sat on the porch steps, making a scene for the neighbors. The security footage from my parents' doorbell camera showed the whole incident. Grandma had brought props including old photo albums and what looked like a scrapbook. My brother stood behind her, arms crossed, occasionally gesturing angrily. They'd finally left when Dad threatened to call the police. Our wedding planner called an emergency meeting. She'd been fielding calls all morning from confused vendors and concerned guests. Her assistant had created a communication flowchart to handle the volume. She suggested we consider hiring a cybersecurity consultant, but we decided our current measures would have to suffice. During the meeting, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number, a photo of the venue's back entrance taken that morning. No message, just the image. The timestamp showed it was taken 20 minutes ago. My fiancé immediately called venue security while I forwarded the photo to our hired security team. The venue conducted a sweep but found no one suspicious. However, they discovered someone had tried to tape a sign to the back door directing deliveries to a different location. The tape residue was fresh. Security footage showed a figure in a hoodie, but the camera angle made identification impossible. We decided to visit the venue in person. reason. On arrival, the coordinator showed us where they'd increased security measures. New locks on all entrances, additional cameras, and a guard stationed at each delivery door. They'd even created a special code word for our vendors that changed daily. While there, we noticed a car circling the parking lot slowly. Same blue sedan from yesterday. This time, we called the police. They arrived quickly and questioned the driver, who turned out to be Grandma's neighbor. He claimed to be lost, but officers noted he had photos of the venue on his phone. The police couldn't arrest him just for taking pictures, but they issued a warning about trespassing. The venue security added his photo and license plate to their watch list. We provided the police with documentation of the harassment campaign, starting an official record in case things escalated further. Back home, my fiancé found our mailbox stuffed with wedding magazines and brochures, all with subscription cards filled out in our names. The afternoon mail brought more. Someone had signed us up for every wedding-related mailing list they could find. It seemed petty compared to other attacks, but the volume was overwhelming. My best man arrived to help us sort through everything. Hidden among the junk mail, we found several legitimate vendor communications that had almost been lost in the pile. One was a confirmation for our rehearsal dinner that needed a response. Another was from the officiant confirming the ceremony details. The afternoon brought a new challenge. Our photographer called, confused about a location scout request. Someone claiming to be my fiancé had called asking him to meet at a park across town to discuss photo locations. He'd grown suspicious when the caller didn't know basic details about our venue. We spent an hour on a video call with the photographer, reviewing all the actual photo locations. He shared his screen, showing us the elaborate email thread someone had created. The impersonator had even included fake inspiration photos and detailed shot lists, trying to lure him away during crucial preparation time. My parents texted that they were changing their locks after finding their spare key missing. They suspected Grandma had taken it during one of her recent visits. The locksmith found evidence someone had tried to duplicate their key recently. Fresh metal shavings in the lock suggested multiple attempts. That evening, our caterer reported a close call. Someone had called claiming we'd developed severe food allergies and needed to change the entire menu. The caller had been persuasive, even emotional, describing a recent diagnosis that required immediate dietary changes. Only the caterer's policy of written medical documentation had prevented the switch. My fiancé and I visited the catering kitchen to taste test everything again, ensuring no changes had been made. The chef showed us their new security protocols. Every ingredient was now locked up overnight. Staff had been briefed on the situation. They'd even assigned a dedicated team member to oversee our order personally. On the drive home, we noticed the blue sedan again, this time parked outside a coffee shop near our apartment. Through the window, we could see Grandma's neighbor talking animatedly with two other people we didn't recognize. They had papers spread across the table and kept glancing at their phones. We parked around the corner and walked past casually. My fiancé snapped a discreet photo of the group, gets caught with venue photos on his phone and claims he's lost. Buddy, that's like saying you accidentally fell into the cookie jar while holding a glass of milk. Can we talk about how they signed them up for every wedding magazine known to mankind? That's such a grandma move, like, if I can't stop the wedding, I'll bury them in paper. The papers on their table looked like printouts of social media profiles and what might have been a timeline. One paper clearly showed the venue's logo. We hurried home and added this information to our security file. That night brought the most disturbing attack yet. Our apartment building's fire alarm went off at 2 a.m. Everyone evacuated while firefighters searched for the cause. They found nothing, but security footage showed someone in dark clothing pulling the alarm on our floor before disappearing down the stairwell. While standing outside in the cold, several neighbors mentioned they'd been asked strange questions about us recently. An elderly woman said someone claiming to be a wedding planner had knocked on her door asking about our schedule. Another neighbor reported someone trying to access the building's package room with an old code. We spent the rest of the night in a hotel, too exhausted and paranoid to return home. My fiancé finally broke down, crying from the stress. I held her while she worried about our wedding being ruined. We made a pact to stay strong together, reminding each other why we were fighting so hard for our special day. Morning came too soon. My maid of honor met us at the hotel with coffee and updates. The fake social media accounts had evolved overnight. Now they were messaging vendors directly, trying to extract information about timing and logistics. Some vendors had almost responded before remembering our security protocols. We returned to our apartment to find maintenance fixing our door lock. Someone had jammed gum in it overnight, probably during the fire alarm chaos. Building management had already reviewed security footage but couldn't get a clear image of the perpetrator. They offered to install a new electronic lock at their expense. My parents called with their own morning update. Grandma had recruited more flying monkeys. 3 different relatives had called before 8 a.m., each with increasingly dramatic stories about family destruction and permanent rifts. Mom had started keeping a log of who called and what they said, noticing patterns in their arguments. The wedding was now 5 days away. Every vendor had been secured with passwords and verification protocols. Our guest list had been personally contacted and verified. Security measures were in place at the venue and our apartment, yet the attacks showed no signs of slowing down. That afternoon, while finalizing seating arrangements with our wedding planner, her assistant rushed in with printed screenshots. Someone had created a wedding registry in our names at multiple stores, all requesting cash gifts be sent to a different address. The stores were already processing several gifts before the fraud was discovered. We spent 3 hours on the phone with various retailers, canceling the fraudulent registries and trying to track down who had already sent gifts. Some stores couldn't reverse the transactions immediately. We had to provide extensive documentation proving the registries were fake. The address they'd used led to an empty rental property. My best man had been investigating the technical side of the attacks. He discovered many of the fake email addresses were created using a specific pattern, all originating from the same IP location. While we couldn't trace it precisely, the geographic area matched Grandma's neighborhood. It wasn't proof, but it was another piece of evidence. As evening approached, we met with our entire wedding party for a final strategy session. Everyone shared their experiences from the past few days. The harassment had extended to them too. Bridesmaids received messages asking for venue details. Groomsmen got calls about bachelor party plans we'd never made. We created a comprehensive action plan for the remaining days. Each wedding party member took responsibility for specific tasks. Some would monitor social media, others would liaison with vendors. My best man would coordinate with security. My maid of honor would manage guest communications. Everyone had backup plans for their backup plans. The meeting ended with an unexpected knock at the door. A process server handed me legal documents. My heart sank until I read them. It wasn't a lawsuit, but a cease and desist letter from my brother's ex-girlfriend's lawyer. She was threatening legal action against him for harassment and wanted documentation that she had no involvement in the wedding sabotage. I stared at the cease and desist letter, processing its implications. My brother's ex-girlfriend wanted nothing to do with our situation and was taking legal steps to distance herself. My fiancé grabbed the documents, scanning them quickly before adding them to our growing evidence file. 3 days until the wedding. The harassment had become predictable in its patterns, but exhausting in its persistence. My maid of honor texted that morning with screenshots of 12 new fake social media accounts created overnight. Each one targeted different guest groups with variations of the same lies. The venue called with concerning news. Their overnight security had detained someone attempting to scale the fence near the service entrance. The person fled before police arrived, leaving behind a backpack containing spray paint cans and what appeared to be homemade stink bombs. Security footage showed the same build as Grandma's neighbor. My fiancé and I drove to the venue immediately. The coordinator walked us through their enhanced security measures. Motion sensors now covered every entrance. Additional cameras monitored blind spots. They'd hired off-duty police officers for round-the-clock patrols starting immediately. While inspecting the grounds, we noticed fresh tire tracks near a rarely used access road. The security team investigated and found evidence someone had been conducting surveillance. Cigarette butts, food wrappers, and worn patches in the grass suggested multiple visits over several days. Back at our apartment, building management had installed the new electronic locks. The system required both a code and key card for entry. They'd also positioned a security guard in the lobby specifically to monitor our floor's access. These measures felt extreme, but necessary given recent events. My parents arrived looking haggard. Mom explained that Grandma had escalated her campaign among extended family. She'd created a phone tree, organizing relatives to call at specific times with coordinated messages. The manipulation was sophisticated, playing on each relative's specific relationship dynamics and past grievances. Dad showed me printouts of emails Grandma had been sending to family members. Each one painted me as unstable, vindictive, and destroying family unity. She'd twisted every interaction, every boundary I'd set, into evidence of my supposed cruelty. The narrative was compelling if you didn't know the truth. The wedding planner called with updates on vendor security. Every single vendor now had strict protocols in place. The florist would hand-deliver arrangements with security escort. The caterer had assigned a supervisor to personally oversee food preparation and transport. The photographer would arrive with an assistant to verify his identity. That afternoon brought a new development. Our DJ called, confused about equipment rental changes. Someone had contacted the rental company directly, claiming our DJ had requested different speakers and lighting. The rental company had almost processed the order before remembering our security protocols. My best man discovered the attempted sabotage went deeper. The fake equipment order included smoke machines and strobe lights, items that would have transformed our elegant reception into a nightclub atmosphere. The rental company traced the call to a burner phone purchased with cash 2 days before the wedding. I woke to find our apartment door covered in printed screenshots of the fake social media posts. Someone had slipped into the building overnight and papered our entire hallway. Building security footage showed a figure in dark clothing, face obscured by a baseball cap. The morning brought fresh vendor calls. Our transportation company reported someone trying to cancel the shuttle service for elderly guests. The hotel block manager mentioned suspicious calls asking about our room reservations. Each attempt was thwarted by our security measures, but the sheer volume was overwhelming. My fiancé spent hours on the phone with guests who'd received new waves of misinformation. Some had gotten emails claiming the wedding was black tie when we'd specified cocktail attire. Others received messages about a supposed registry for cash gifts to a different address. We corrected each lie individually. Mom called with disturbing news. She'd discovered Grandma had been visiting local print shops, creating flyers about our wedding. The flyers contained the venue address and encouraged people to attend uninvited to support family unity. Mom intercepted several before they could be distributed. The security company increased their presence at the venue. They'd caught 2 more attempted intrusions overnight. Both times, individuals had tried to access the property through different entry points. Neither was caught, but tire tracks and footprints suggested coordinated surveillance efforts. That evening, we held a final meeting with our wedding party. Everyone reported on their assigned tasks. The social media monitoring team had cataloged over 200 fake accounts. The vendor liaison team had maintained constant communication with every service provider. The guest communication team had personally contacted every invitee. My maid of honor presented a detailed timeline for the wedding day. Every moment was planned, every potential vulnerability addressed. We'd assigned specific people to monitor each entrance entrance. Others would patrol the perimeter. Some would stay with vendors during setup. Nothing was left to chance. The rehearsal dinner approached. We'd moved it to a private room at a restaurant known for discretion. Only the wedding party and immediate family were invited. Even so, we hired security to check names at the door. The paranoia felt justified given everything that had happened. During the rehearsal, I noticed my parents seemed lighter. Mom mentioned they'd been receiving fewer harassing calls. Dad theorized that Grandma was running out of relatives to recruit. The extended family was growing tired of the drama, especially after learning about the vendor sabotage attempts. The rehearsal itself went smoothly. We practiced the ceremony twice, working out timing and positioning. The officiant reviewed the vows, confirming no last-minute changes. My fiancé and I exchanged glances throughout, silent communication about our shared determination to succeed despite the obstacles. After the rehearsal, the wedding party gathered at our apartment. We reviewed the security plans one final time. Everyone knew their responsibilities. Phone numbers were exchanged. Backup plans were confirmed. The atmosphere was tense but determined. That night, sleep eluded me. Every sound made me jump. My fiancé lay beside me, equally restless. We held hands in the darkness, drawing strength from each other. Tomorrow was our wedding day. Everything we'd planned, everything we'd protected, led to this moment. Wedding day arrived with perfect spring weather. I dressed carefully in my parents' hotel room, away from our apartment to avoid potential disruptions. Dad helped with my tie while Mom fussed with my boutonniere. Their support throughout this ordeal had been unexpected but deeply appreciated. The venue looked magnificent. Security discreetly patrolled while vendors set up under watchful eyes. My best man coordinated with the security team, confirming all protocols were in place. Every delivery was checked. Every person was verified. Nothing says dream wedding like turning your big day into a high-security event with more protocols than a bank heist. The image of Grandma making flyers to invite random strangers to crash the wedding is just wild. That's some next-level party crashing planning right there. Every detail was monitored. Guests began arriving an hour before the ceremony. Security checked names against our list, turning away several individuals who couldn't provide proper identification. My maid of honor later confirmed these were distant relatives Grandma had tried to recruit as wedding crashers. As I took my position at the altar, I scanned the assembled guests. Our friends and family filled the seats, all people who'd been personally verified. Security stood at each entrance, professional but unobtrusive. Everything was proceeding according to plan. The music began. My fiancée appeared at the end of the aisle, radiant in her dress. For a moment, all the stress and harassment faded away. This was our moment, our day. Nothing else mattered except the woman walking toward me. The ceremony proceeded flawlessly. We exchanged vows without interruption. The officiant pronounced us married. As we kissed, the guests erupted in genuine celebration. We'd done it. Despite everything, we'd protected our special day. During the cocktail hour, security reported 2 attempted intrusions. Both were quickly intercepted and escorted off the property. My brother had tried to enter through the service entrance. Grandma had attempted to convince a catering staff member she was my mother. Neither succeeded. The reception unfolded beautifully. Speeches were heartfelt and drama-free. The meal was served without incident. Every dish exactly as ordered. Our first dance wasn't interrupted. The DJ played our carefully selected playlist. Every moment we'd fought to protect remained intact. As the evening progressed, I noticed my parents genuinely enjoying themselves. Mom danced with Dad, both looking years younger. They'd chosen me, chosen to support our marriage despite family pressure. The weight of that decision showed in their relief at our success. My best man pulled me aside during the reception. Security had detained someone trying to distribute flyers in the parking lot. The flyers claimed the wedding was a sham and encouraged guests to leave in protest. Security confiscated the materials and removed the individual from the property. The photographer captured every precious moment. Our vendors executed flawlessly, their extra security measures invisible to guests but effective against sabotage. The cake cutting, the bouquet toss, every tradition proceeded without disruption. Our determination had paid off. As the reception wound down, I found a quiet moment with my new wife. We stood on the venue's balcony, overlooking the celebration below. She squeezed my hand, acknowledging everything we'd overcome to reach this point. No words were necessary. The send-off was magical. Guests lined up with sparklers as we made our way to the waiting car. Security flanked us discreetly, ensuring no last-minute disruptions. As we drove away, I saw 2 figures arguing with security at the gate. Even then, they couldn't let go. Our honeymoon suite was secured under aliases. We'd learned from experience not to underestimate the lengths some would go to cause disruption. The hotel staff had been briefed on our situation and implemented extra security measures. That night, we finally relaxed. The wedding was over. We'd succeeded despite every attempt at sabotage. My phone sat silent, its do not disturb setting blocking any further harassment. Tomorrow, we'd fly to our honeymoon destination, also booked under careful security protocols. A week later, we returned to find our apartment peaceful. Building security reported no incidents during our absence. The fake social media accounts had been suspended. The harassment calls had stopped. It seemed the failure to disrupt our wedding had finally ended the campaign. My parents visited to view our wedding photos. They looked happy, relieved to have chosen correctly. Mom mentioned Grandma had been calling less frequently. Dad said my brother had moved out of state for a job. The family dynamics had shifted permanently. We resumed our normal lives with new boundaries firmly in place. Our door codes were maintained. Our vendor relationships included permanent security notes. We'd learned valuable lessons about protecting what mattered most. The experience had strengthened our bond and clarified our priorities. 3 months post-wedding, we received a letter from my brother. No apology, just notification realization he'd moved across the country. Grandma occasionally sent guilt-laden cards we didn't open. The extended family gradually forgot the drama. Life moved forward on our terms. Our marriage thrived despite its chaotic beginning. We'd proven our commitment through extraordinary circumstances. Every challenge had reinforced our partnership. The wedding sabotage attempts became a story we'd eventually share, proof of our resilience. My parents and I grew closer through the ordeal. They'd finally seen the dysfunction they'd enabled and chosen differently. Our monthly dinners were pleasant now, free from toxic dynamics. They'd gained a daughter-in-law who understood their journey. The vendor relationships we'd built through crisis became lasting connections. Several referred us to friends, praising our grace under pressure. The security company sent a congratulations card on our anniversary. Even difficult experiences had yielded unexpected positives. Looking forward, we maintained appropriate boundaries with extended family. Some relationships were severed permanently. Others required careful management. We'd learned to protect our peace without guilt. Our home remained a sanctuary from those who'd tried to destroy our happiness. Well, I guess nothing says happily ever after, like your brother trying to sneak in through the kitchen while grandma pretends to be your mom to the catering staff. The best part is the brother sending a letter 3 months later with no apology, just, "Hey, I moved," and grandma's still sending those guilt cards nobody opens, bless her heart. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to like the video and take a look at some of my other videos. Thanks.